Hello, welcome to the Nightly Needle. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little sunflower square, but to get started there's a few things we're going to need. First, you're going to need a 3-weight yarn in 3 or more colors. I'm using Premier Everyday DK yarn. You're going to need a crochet hook size 4.5 millimeter, scissors, and a darning needle. To start with, I'm going to be using a black walnut to make the center of the flower. First, you're going to make a slip knot and insert your hook into the loop. Then we're going to chain 2. Now we're going to be working back into that second chain from the hook. We're going to make our first puff stitch, so we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, insert our hook and draw up another loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook and chain 1 to seal. Then we're going to work a second puff stitch, so we're going to work back into that same chain and repeat the process of yarning over and inserting our hook, but this time we're going to do it 3 times instead of 2. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on the hook and chain 1 to seal, and that's going to give us our 2 beginning puff stitches. Then we're going to chain 1, and that's going to give us our chain 2 to begin the next section. We're going to do another set of puff stitches into that same chain that we've been working out of. So you're just going to repeat the process of doing a level 3 puff stitch 2 times, and then we're going to chain 2 again. Now we're going to repeat that one more time by making our 2 puff stitches and a chain 2 afterwards. Now we're going to slip stitch join to that beginning chain. This seals the round. So now that we can begin our next round, you should have 3 sets of 2 puffs and you should have 3 sets of chain 2. To begin the second round, we're going to chain 2 and then we're going to turn our work over, and we're going to be working back into that chain 2 space that we finished off with. And just like the previous round, we're going to be working 2 of our puff stitches into that chain space, and we're going to do the first one like we did before, where we yarn over, insert our hook only twice before pulling through. We're going to chain 1 to seal, and then we're going to work a regular puff into that same chain space. That means you're going to yarn over and insert your hook 3 times instead of 2. Then we're going to chain 1 to complete that last puff stitch, and then we'll chain 1 more to give us our chain 2. Now we're going to be working in between the next 2 puff stitches, so that chain 1 space between them. We're going to make a single puff stitch there. So you're just going to yarn over and insert your hook 3 times, and then you're going to pull through all those loops and chain 1 plus 1 to give us our chain 2. In the next chain 2 space, we're going to be working the 2 puffs. So that'll be a level 3 puff plus a chain 1 plus another level 3 puff plus a chain 2. We're going to keep repeating this for each chain 1 space and chain 2 space around. Now we're going to slip stitch join to that first beginning chain 2, and this is going to finish off our second round. This next round is going to be really similar to the last round that we just did, so we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn our work over again. And just like the previous round, we're going to be working in that chain 2 space from the last round. We're going to be making our 2 puffs in this one, and don't forget that when you start the first puff, you're going to only be drawing up twice instead of the 3 times. So you'll pull through all those loops, chain 1, and then you'll work a regular puff by yarning over and inserting your hook 3 times. You will then do your chain 1 to seal and then another chain for our chain 2 to begin the next section. So in the next section we will be skipping over that single puff that's by itself, and we're going to be working on the side of it in the chain 2 space, and we're going to be making 2 3-level puffs again. Now to finish up, we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and then chain another, and that's going to give us our 2 chains to work the next puff. So we're going to work the next puff in between those 2 puffs in the chain 1 space. Now we're going to chain 1 and then chain another, and that's going to give us our 2 chains to work the next puff. Now in that chain 2 space, we're going to be working our 2 puffs, and then we're going to follow that with the chain 2. Then in the next chain space, you're going to work your 2 puffs, and we're just going to continue working this 2 puffs, 1 puff until we reach the end of the round. Now we're going to work our final single puff in between these 2 puffs from the previous round, and then we're going to chain 2 and we're going to slip stitch join to that first chain 2. Now that we've completed this round, you should have a total of 15 puffs and 18 chain stitches. So we're going to chain 2 and turn our work over to begin the next round. And like previously, we'll be working in the chain 2 space. And just like previously, you're going to start with that modified puff where it's only the 2 yarn overs, chain 1, and then do a 3-level puff. Now the only difference really in this round is we're going to only be chaining the one to seal the puff and not the second chain. This is just going to make it a little bit closer and tighter knit and kind of finish up the center of the flower. After we finish the second puff of the set, we're going to only be doing a single puff in the next chain space, and that's going to be in between the 2 puffs from the previous round. And we're going to work another single puff into the next chain space. And don't forget, we're only chaining the one to seal the puff. We're not chaining 2 this time. Now we're going to be working another set of puffs, so you're going to do 2 puffs in the next chain space. And then we're going to continue doing this pattern of the 2 puffs, 1 puff, 1 puff, 2 puff. And then we'll go all the way around to the end. Now we're going to be working our final single puff, and then we're going to slip stitch join to that beginning chain 2. So this completes the round. We should have 20 puffs in total all the way around, and now what we're going to do is cut the black walnut and we're going to attach the mustard color. To do this, I'm going to just chain 1 and I'm going to cut the yarn, and then I'm going to pull through the tail through that final loop. Now I'm going to be using the mustard color yarn, and I'm going to slip stitch join, And it doesn't matter where you slip stitch join as long as it's in a chain space in between a puff. And I'm going to join a little bit differently than most people do. I'm going to incorporate the tail in the join as you see here. I find that it helps anchor that initial stitch and keeps it from coming loose while you're making your next couple stitches. So we're going to go ahead and chain 2, and since we joined that way it counts as our first chain, so that gives us technically a chain 3 to start our round. And now we're also going to double crochet into that same chain space. Now we have 2 completed double crochets in that initial chain space. We're going to be working what I call a double crochet small shell. So we're going to need to chain 2 and make 2 more double crochets into that same chain space. In the next chain space, we're going to be working a single crochet. Then in the following chain space, we're going to work another double crochet small shell. So you want to double crochet 2, chain 2, and then double crochet 2 more into the same space. We're going to work a single crochet into the next chain space. Then the following chain space is going to be another double crochet small shell. We're just going to continue doing the single crochet and the double crochet small shell all the way around. So here we are at the end of the round. We're going to make our final single crochet into that last chain space, and then we're going to slip stitch join to our beginning chain 3. To begin this next round, we're going to chain 2. That's going to count as our first half double crochet. Then we're going to work another half double crochet into the top of that next stitch. Now we're going to be working into that chain 2 space of our double crochet small shell. So we're just going to work another double crochet small shell. We're going to double crochet 2, chain 2, and double crochet 2 more. Now we're going to be working down the other side. We're going to be half double crocheting in each of the tops of the double crochets from the previous round. In the single crochet from the previous round, we're going to loosely work a slip stitch. Now we're going to work up the side of the next petal. We're going to do a half double crochet in each of the double crochets. And then in the chain 2 space, we're going to work our double crochet small shell. Then we'll be following that with another loose slip stitch into that single crochet from the previous round. We're going to continue working this pattern all the way around each of the petals. Now we're going to do our final loose slip stitch into that final single crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch join to that beginning chain 2. Begin this next round with a chain 1. This time it doesn't count as our first stitch. We're going to single crochet into that same stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the top of the next 2 stitches, giving us a total of 3 single crochets. Now we're going to be working into the chain 2 space from the previous round. We're going to do a single crochet followed by another single crochet, chain 2, and 2 more single crochets into that same space. There we have created our single crochet small shell. Now we're going to be working down the other side of the petal. We're going to work single crochets into the top of each of the next 3 stitches. Now in the round's previous slip stitch, we're going to work another slip stitch. This time it can be tight because that's just going to help the petal be formed a little bit better, giving it more of a contrast from point to valley. Now we're going to be working up the next petal, so we're going to single crochet into the top of the next 3 stitches. This will be followed by our single crochet small shell into the chain 2 space. We're going to continue working the same pattern up and down each of the petals. We're going to now work our final slip stitch into that slip stitch from the previous round, and then we're going to slip stitch join to that beginning chain 1. As you can see now, we have our fully formed petals all the way around. So it's time to fasten off the mustard color. So we're going to chain 1, snip the tail with some scissors, and then we're going to pull through the loop. We're going to set this aside so we can begin the background square. Using the fern color yarn, we're going to be making a magic circle by wrapping the yarn tail around our index and middle finger 3 times. You're going to then put your hook underneath all 3 loops and pull up the last loop. Going to slide off your fingers and chain 1 to seal. We're going to begin the foundation round. So we're going to chain 2 more, and that's going to give us our chain 3, which is going to count as a double crochet. Working in the circle, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the circle, and draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops, just like a regular double crochet. And we're going to keep doing that until we have a total of 12 double crochets, and that includes that first chain 3. Now it's time to close the circle. So I'm going to insert my hook into the middle, and I'm going to gently pull the tail until it's tight enough to fit around the hook. Then I will remove the hook and continue to pull the tail until it is completely cinched together. I use the hook method because it tends to make it a little bit more even as it's tightening, because sometimes the loops can overlap each other and it doesn't work out too good. Now we're going to slip stitch join to that chain 3, and that's going to seal our foundation round and get us ready for the next round. This next round is going to be an increasing round, so we're going to chain 3 for our first double crochet, and in that same stitch we're going to double crochet. Now we're going to work into the next double crochet 2 more double crochets. You have to be careful because whenever you use the chaining method, sometimes the second double crochet or the second stitch will kind of sink down, and you have to make sure you pick up both loops. We're going to continue working 2 double crochets into each double crochet all the way around. Now we're going to slip stitch join to that beginning chain 3. This is going to give us a total of 24 double crochets. To begin the next round, we're going to chain 3, and that's going to count as our first double crochet stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to be working 2 double crochets, and that's going to be our increase. In the following stitch, we're going to work a double crochet by itself. And then in the stitch after that, we'll work another increase with 2 double crochets. We're going to continue working this pattern all the way around. In the final stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochets, and this should complete the round. We're going to slip stitch join to the beginning chain 3. This should give you a total of 36 double crochets around. To begin the next round, we're going to chain 3 and double crochet into the same stitch. In the following stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, and we're going to repeat that for the next one also. So you should have your increased double crochet followed by 2 double crochets. Next stitch is going to be another increase, so you're going to work 2 double crochets into it, and then the 2 following stitches will each be a double crochet. So we're going to continue working this pattern all the way around. In each of the final 2 stitches, we're going to work a double crochet, and then we're going to slip stitch join to that beginning chain 3. This should give you a total of 48 double crochets around. To begin the next, we're going to go ahead and chain 3 for our first double crochet. Now in this round, we're going to be working on the corners. So in the next 6 stitches, we're going to work a double crochet. Now that we have our 7 double crochets, we're going to be working our first corner. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to skip the next stitch, and in the following stitch we're going to work our double crochet small shell. So that'll be 2 double crochets, chain 2, followed by 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. Now we're going to chain 1, and then we are going to skip the next stitch. And then in the following stitch, we're going to double crochet. We're going to double crochet into the next 8 stitches to give us a total of 9 double crochets. Now we're going to work our next corner by chaining 1, skipping 1, and then in the following working our double crochet small shell. We're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and start our set of double crochets in the one after. So you're going to double crochet 9 and then do your next corner, double crochet 9 again, and then do your last corner. We are at the final 3 stitches. We're going to chain 1, skip the first stitch, and double crochet into the last 2 stitches. Then we will slip stitch join into the chain 3, and this is going to finish off the round. You should have a total of 36 double crochets, 4 double crochet small shells, and 8 chains. To begin this round, we're going to chain 3, and that's going to count as our first double crochet. Then we're going to double crochet into the next 6 stitches until we get to the chain space. Now we're going to work a double crochet into the chain space before we start working our corner. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip over the next 2 double crochets. And then we're going to work our double crochet small shell into the chain 2 space of the previous double crochet small shell. We're going to chain 1 and skip over the next 2 double crochets and work a double crochet into the chain space. Now we're going to double crochet into the next 10 stitches, and then we are also going to work a double crochet into the next chain space before working our corner again. Now that we are at the next corner, we're going to chain 1, skip the next 2 double crochets, and work in the chain 2 space. We're going to work a double crochet small shell, chain 1, skip the next 2 double crochets, and work a double crochet into the next chain space. Now we're going to work 10 double crochets down the edge and then another double crochet into the chain space before working our next corner. And we're going to complete this all the way around. Now that we've completed the final corner, we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and work a double crochet into the chain space. And then we are going to work double crochets into the last 2 double crochets. Then we're going to slip stitch join to the beginning chain 3. You should have a total of 44 double crochets, 4 double crochet small shells, and 8 chains. To begin the next round, we're going to chain 3, and that will count as our first double crochet. Then we're going to double crochet into the next 7 stitches and into the next chain space. Like rounds previously, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and work our double crochet small shell into the chain 2 space of the previous double crochet small shell. Then we'll chain 1 again, skip the next 2 double crochets, and then work a double crochet into the chain space. Now we're going to double crochet into the next 12 stitches and into the next chain space. Should give you a total of 13 double crochets down the edge. We're going to work the next corner by chaining 1, skip the next 2 double crochets, and working a double crochet small shell into the chain 2 space of the previous double crochet small shell. Chain 1, skip the next 2 double crochets, and double crochet into the chain space. We're going to continue working our double crochets in our corners until we've made it all the way around. After we've completed our final corner, we're going to work a double crochet into that chain space, and then a double crochet into the next 3 double crochets, and then we will slip stitch join to that beginning chain 3. In this final round, you should have a total of 52 double crochets, 4 double crochets, small shells, and 8 chains. We're going to fasten off. So you're going to chain 1, snip the tail, and then pull it all the way through. Now it's time for us to sew together our square and our sunflower. So you're going to adjust your square and flip it over if you want to, however you want your square to look. And then you're going to place your flower on top and get that lined up with the center. Once you've adjusted it the way you want to, you're going to lay your flower to the side, and you are going to take your brown yarn or whatever color you used in the center, and you're going to cut yourself a tail about 10 inches. Now you're going to thread your yarn through the eye of your needle, and then you're going to line your flower back up center to center. When sewing your flower together, you want to make sure you get the best possible seal together. So I'm going to be working close to the top of the first layer or the middle section of the flower. I'm going to weave in and out, back and forth, all the way around until I get a good enough seal around. When you're happy with the way it's attached, now it's time to sew in the ends. To do this, you're going to take each tail and you're going to weave it in between the puffs in the center. Once you've completed weaving in the ends, you can go ahead and snip the edges off. Now you have your completed sunflower square. I think it turned out super cute. You can make multiples, and then when you're finished, you can block them and it'll make them a little bit more uniform and easier to attach. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a great day.